Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Thanks for joining me today. I'm coming to you from Studio B, which is the new Atmos room here at Sweetwater. And part of the reason for that is that we want to talk about Atmos with our very special guest. This is Bob Clearmountain. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here, Mitch.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been out to Sweetwater.
It's been a number of years. It's been a number of years since anyone's done pretty much anything.
You're right. So you're out talking to the sales engineers? You've been doing demonstrations, playing your Atmos mixes, and all kinds of fun stuff going on. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know, maybe it'd be easiest if you list the artists you haven't worked with. No, the credits are Rolling Stones, Bryan Adams, Ricky Martin, Grammy Awards, Latin Grammy. I mean, the list is just absolutely incredible, and everyone should go to mixthis.com and check all that out.
It goes on a bit.
Yeah, it's all.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, but you've been mixing Atmos for how long?
Well, a year now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I started a little over a year ago. I mixed the fourth album from the band for their 50th year anniversary of the Cahoots album. I had mixed the three before that, previous years, and I had done 5.1 mixes of all those, along with the stereo. And this one, they asked for an Atmos mix, and I wasn't set up for it yet. And I had a feeling it was coming. Right. So I'd done a few things with my room to get ready for it. So I thought, okay, I could do an Atmos mix. I'll figure this out, and did a bunch of research and bought some more speakers, figured out how to do it. And so we mixed the Cahoots album. That went well. It was a bit of a learning experience, although I've been mixing 5.1 for like over 20 years, along with my, because I do it simultaneously with the stereo mix. Mm-hmm. And so it's really just more channels, which is always fun.
Right, yeah.
More is better.
Right. So for those who are just experiencing Atmos, or maybe you've only had the headphones, or you've only seen it movies or whatever, what is Atmos as far as the music side of things?
Well, it's more speakers, I mean, basically. But it's, Atmos is designed for movies, basically. Dolby came up, it's a brilliant system because it's scalable. It's not dependent on how many speakers you have. It's designed for different size movie theaters. And so it kind of figures out, there's like a Dolby renderer in every playback system, and it figures out how many speakers are available, and it figures out where to put everything. For us, it's a little different. It's quite a bit different for music, because they started pushing it to the labels and the streaming services. Because most of what we do, we don't have jet planes or helicopters and rockets going by, which is kind of, we don't have Iron Man flying around. At least
not yet. Right?
Not yet. And as much as I try to get my artists to give me more helicopters, where are the helicopters? It's mainly music,
right.
And so it's more static, and it's more like 5.1 with more speakers. We have side speakers and speakers in the ceiling, but it's fun for me. I really like it because I'll put a quad ambience in the ceiling. Instead of having all the guitars in the front, I'll stick some guitars in the side speakers and keyboards in the back, or maybe if there's strings and horns, I can stretch it around the sides. And there's all kinds of fun ways of doing it. And I'm still learning about it. I'm still discovering stuff, which is the part that I like so much, because it gives me all these more options. Just try stuff, and people ask me, well, what's the way you're supposed to do it? Well, there is no way you're supposed to do it. Just try things and see what works.
Yeah, it's kind of an open 3D palette for you just to paint the audio on. How's that for a metaphor, to paint the audio on?
Yeah, right, it really is. And every mixer has their own vision, every producer and artist, they have their own ideas of what to do, and that's one of the things that makes it so interesting, because everybody's got a different approach, which I love that part of it.
Right. So you're on the level you're working at, you have your SSL console, and you've interfaced that with a variety of gear, and one of the key components is Apogee Symphony Mark II, which you're here helping to show the new software update for that.
Well, this is the thing. There's a lot of different, most people are mixing in the box now. You can do it on my SSL, I'm mixing stereo and surround at the same time. just by using the small fader as a trim to the output buses. But you can do the same thing in Pro Tools or Logic or Nuendo, where you can create a 7.1.2 aux bus. So just put everything at 0 at unity and use that for your Atmos mix. It basically works the same way. It's the same mix, all the same processing of all the channels, compression, EQ, effects, but it's going to different places. The one thing to realize that's different about stereo, I mean, a lot of people put their effects on individual channels when you're working in the box. It's a very easy, convenient way to do it. But I find it's better to go back to the old-fashioned way of sending effects off an aux bus, right? So get a bunch of aux buses for your delays and your reverbs, and keep those common, and then you can set up quad reverbs and have delays going to different channels, and that's when it really starts to get fun with Atmos, to me, because you can have a vocal in the middle, in the front, but then you can have delays cascading to different channels. You can have quad reverbs, and so you really create a spacious environment,
Right.
And that's really the fun part to me.
Right, right. So the key components, if I understand correctly, the key components would be your audio interface and monitor controller, which the Symphony Mark II with the new software now serves all of that function.
Well, that's the thing, because of the way I mix, I'm switching between stereo and Atmos, and maybe sometimes 5.1. Now the Apogee Mark II is set up so that that's really easy to do. So you can, your stereo, the front two speakers in your Atmos can become your stereo speakers just on a click of a button, or you can have another set of speakers, like a small, maybe some NS10s or whatever it is that you like for your small speakers. For me at home, I have an old Sharp television that I plug through just to hear through these little TV speakers. Actually, they sound quite good.
Right.
They're a lot better than the more modern TVs. It's just a standard definition.
Right.
But it makes it really easy to switch between formats. You can have up to 16 different monitoring workflows. So you can have Atmos. You could have maybe 2 different 5.1 setups if you have enough speakers to do that. It makes, and you can preset all that, and then there's a little hardware remote, and you just assign it to buttons on the remote, and it's really good. You monitor trims, so you do a pink noise of your room and get all your monitors exactly equal, and that's really easy to do in there. And it'll store it separately for every different configuration.
Right. Right, and that's a free update to the Symphony Mark II.
It's a free. Well, that's the thing. People that own Mark IIs already, this will be a totally free update.
Right.
And then for the people new to the Mark II, it's a very reasonable cost. It's your DAW interface and monitor controller all combined into one.
Right. Right. The other critical components, of course, are the speakers. Now, do you need to have, if you're doing a 7.1.4 rig or whatever it might be, do you need to have 11 of the same speaker to make all this work at that point?
You don't have to have the same speaker, and there's a lot of different options. And of course, I know Sweetwater already has a bunch of different, depending on your budget and the size of your room and exactly what kind of speakers because everybody likes different speakers.
Sure.
But there's plenty of different options for that. And of course, Sweetwater is the place to come. That's where I'm coming, because we're putting together a little, like a QC room for Atmos, because this is one of the things that's complicated is once you do an Atmos mix, you end up with this what you call an ADM file, and it's an ADM wave file, and it's basically an interleaved with all the channels, to however many channels you decided to use, which can vary. And then, okay, what do you do with that? And how do you deliver it? And it's the Apple spec is that you have to conform it to your stereo mix. Because it's got to be, you have to deliver a stereo mix with it. And it's got to be within 50 milliseconds and same exact length. And so somebody's got to do all that. So we're building a little room. We're going to have an engineer in there that you can deliver when you finish the mix, and they take care of all that, and they deliver it to wherever it's supposed to go. Because that's something, you finish a mix and, okay, who's got time? That's another process. It's like mastering, really. And there's just a handful of mastering places that will do that for you. As, most of the high-end mastering places they have enough business just with stereo.
Right.
And they say, well, you let somebody else take care of that.
Right. Right. So is it, talking about all these kind of things, is this something that's really just for someone mixing on your level, or
No.
someone with a home studio, a project studio get into this?
Well, anybody can do it. I mean, Logic, Apple Logic has a system that's got the Dolby renderer built into it. And in fact, they've just announced that you can actually listen to, it's the only system where you can actually listen to what Apple does with their binaural. They call it spatial audio, which is different than what the other most of the streaming services are using the Dolby binaural that comes out of the renderer. But Apple's doing their own rendering. They just get the ADM file, the actual multi-channel file, and they do their own render for headphones because they combine head tracking with their head tracking headphones.
Oh, right.
And so that's the only way you can listen to it before it's actually released. But the thing is that even with Logic, you still need some way of switching between all the different formats, especially if you're mixing both at the same time, which I really suggest because it's really easy to do. And instead of redoing your whole mix and spending a whole nother day on your Atmos mix, you can do it all at the same time. And we're demonstrating that over on the stage today.
Right. So Logic has that built in. You can also do it with Pro Tools, and you can do it with Nuendo as well, currently.
Well, sure, yeah, you can. The only thing is with Pro Tools and Nuendo, you can't hear the Apple version of it
Yeah,
in
sure.
headphones.
Right.
But other than that, it's all the same. And the Symphony Mark II will work with any DAW, of course.
Right, so you could route to all those outputs with any data that you're using. Right. So is there more that you need to have? Is it just the speakers, just a interface that'll support all of this, and then the Dolby renderer software, whether separate or built in?
Yeah, that's really all you need is your DAW, the Symphony Mark II, and whatever speakers you want to use. And not only that, but there's some people that are mixing just on headphones, but Apple discourages that. I mean, they're actually saying that in fact that if you get their spec sheet and I think the BMG spec sheet and a couple of these labels, that they want you to have a proper, at least a 12-channel, 12-speaker system to mix on.
Right.
Because I'm not sure why. I think they're thinking that it should be compatible with a home system. Because there's lots of home systems, like one that Sweetwater actually sells, which is the JBL. There's a JBL soundbar. I can't remember what the model number is, but it's a soundbar, and it's got two detachable satellite speakers, which you put them in the back for your surround speakers, but they also have up-firing speakers that'll bounce the height channels off the ceiling. And so it's quite a good system, and I've listened to it, and it sounds very good. It's it's like, oh, well, that's what my mix is supposed to sound like.
Right.
More so than what you get in headphones.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that actually the consumer side of things, the playback of Atmos, is in all the receivers. It's in, we see all kinds of speaker systems and things, and now it's time for the music producers to kind of catch up to that and to start creating a lot of stuff.
That's right.
It seems like we were talking earlier that 5.1 was going to come out for music. It did come out for music, and that was going to be the surround format back in the early 2000s. And,
it lasted about a minute.
About a minute, right? And so we're also excited about Atmos. Do you feel like that's going to keep moving forward? Is that going to be a viable format?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that it was very confusing with the 5.1. There were a lot of different formats. There was DTS and Dolby Digital and SACD and nobody really knew. You got a disc, and okay, what is this? And nobody cares about discs anymore. Now it's mostly streamed, and there's a lot of companies that are behind it now, whereas it was really confusing with 5.1. Dolby's giving their big marketing push on it, and Apple is really involved in it, and all the streaming services are, I think they're all getting into it,
right?
And so it's exciting. I mean, it just seems like, from my perspective, that's all I hear about is Atmos lately.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you talk to the guy in the street and say, "What do you think about Atmos?" And they kind of look at you like, "Dude, don't bother me. Here, you want my money?" And they don't, but it's soon gonna permeate, I think,
right.
to everyone.
Yeah, right. Well, once you hear a true Atmos mix with all the speakers and in a great room, it is super exciting.
It's an experience, and people are still learning what to do with it as far as mixing, and it really is an experience. I mean, I've played mixes for people, and people are like speechless, they're like jaws on the floor after listening to some of these things. If it's a real great piece of music, I mean, the main thing is how good is the music, and it's got to be an arrangement that works with that. But so many things, people are just. I mean, I've played Atmos mixes for artists, and they can't believe that their record would ever sound. And then so many people say, I can never listen to stereo again. How am I supposed to go back and listen to stereo after hearing that? I only want to hear that.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people, after they experience it, you talk to somebody before, it's like, what is this Atmos thing? Who cares? And once they hear it, they go, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a new horizon, a new creative option for musicians and producers and songwriters, and certainly for studios and things as well. So super, super cool. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
appreciate you sitting down with us and sharing some of your experience over the past year working in this format. I keep saying it's exciting, but that's because it's exciting.
It is exciting. It really is. And just fun. I mean, fun for the mixer.
Yeah.
For all you out there with your project studios, you're going to love it. Once you've sorted out and figure out how to do it, it's like you won't want to, the stereo is just going to be boring for you.
Right. Yeah, right. Well, and that, of course, brings us to our plug that if you have questions about Atmos, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. They've been going through training with Bob, and his tech guys are here with him, and folks from Apogee are here training our sales engineers on Atmos, so they can answer your questions. They can help you get into a rig and get things set up and start experiencing the fun. Yeah,
and it gets pretty easy, really. Once you get that Mark II, and then figure out what sort of speakers work for you.
Right. Awesome. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Great to see you. Please come back soon.
I sure will.
It's always a pleasure to have you
It's
here.
always great talking to you, Mitch.
Thank you. I appreciate
really
it.
Is.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us here today. We're in Studio B. This is just a beautiful new Atmos room we have here at Sweetwater. If you're ever in the area, you got to check this out because it's a stunning room that's just amazing.
It is.
We appreciate you spending time with us here today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.